All right, we are on YouTube. I'm getting ready to go on the old Twitch stream. Got OBS firing up. Here we go. There we go. There we go. We are on both YouTube and on Twitch. Let me get this shared out to a few groups. Yeah, who wants to come in and watch the old Crew Chiefs Corner podcast? It's a little bit different than the Facebook Live. So those of you that have ever watched us on the Facebook Live side of things, it's a little bit different. But we do have a little bit of some built-in breaks that you guys can watch. I mean, you guys can ask some questions. So, feel free to chime in with your thoughts as we get ready here. I don't have the Twitch side of things up. I'm using my phone, which is what I usually use for the Twitch stream. I'm using that right now to do my Facebook updates. So apologize about that. And that is not what I wanted to do. Oh, where am I at now? Did that. I don't think I posted that there. And let me see what else we got. So it's a Friday evening. Hopefully you guys are getting ready for a weekend. I know I am. And we got some really good racing going down in Texas. We got the trucks on Sunday. We have Xfinity on tomorrow. So we'll have all that stuff for you. And hopefully we got a few people in here to watch the... okay, so people are stating the obvious. All right, cool. So we got that down. And let me get the Twitch side of things up here. My phone might die at some point, so if I lose the Twitch stream, that will be why. You know, you would think after a while I would know where all my stuff is kept on my phone. I still don't know. Still things I don't know. Stream manager. Cool. All right, awesome. So we got everything up and running. We are good to go on everything. So hopefully you guys are enjoying my little ramble there, but getting ready for the podcast. So basically, if you've never done this before, because I know I put this out in a couple groups, we are going to get ready here. I am going to now jump on, get the podcast side of things up and running. This is a little bit of a process. So there's probably at least 2 minutes before I'm really ready. And like I said, I have YouTube up, and we're streaming there, and we're also on Twitch. So be sure that if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you do that. Or if you're on Twitch, make sure you subscribe as well. We can use all the subscribers and followers we can get on both sides of the platforms. And let me get the podcast up and running here. One of these days. There we go. Need the intro, the outro, sponsored segment. Do all three. And don't worry, you guys don't hear the ads or anything other than me talking the entire time. So you guys won't. That is the one benefit of listening to it live. You don't hear the sponsored segments. You guys kind of miss all that stuff. This isn't like some other podcast that you might listen to where, they actually play everything through and you hear their advertisements and all the other nonsense that they do. I don't go through the trouble of that. Trying to remember all the different ones I use. think I grabbed all the transitions I use. I grabbed 4. I don't know if I'm going to really use all 4, but I'll have them just in case. And then that, and that. I'll go there. And then I got the 2 down there. We all right? Cool. All right, I think we're ready to go. So basically what I'm going to do here is we're going to do the intro, which I'm going to do right now, and then we will get ready. Let me just make sure I picked the right microphone, which I just did. Cool. Hey, everybody, what's up? This is Bobby here at the Coochie's Corner podcast, coming to you with another episode here. On a Friday evening, we're getting ready for the weekend, so hopefully everyone's had a nice week, and you guys enjoyed that special episode the last time that we were with you. A little bit of what I called the day at the races, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I think it was a pretty successful one. We had, probably the 4th or 5th most listened to any of the episodes, so I think you guys enjoyed it. So thank you for all the support on that. So this week we're going to talk about all the 2021 news. I know you guys all want to hear my takes on that. So we'll talk about the Briscoe confirmed news, Larson reinstated as of January 1st. We will talk about, what that all means for Larson and the Hendricks side of things. We'll go over the news of yesterday, which was Go Fast Racing announced that they're scaling back to part-time. Joe Falk has taken his charter that Go Fast was using, and that is now going to go to BJ McLeod and Matt Tiff. So we'll talk about that and the whole charter system. I'll kind of do a little segment on that as well. And then we will talk about Kansas. We'll go over the race out of Kansas, a bad day for Chip Ganassi Racing. Both of their drivers had some bad days, but it just seems like these playoffs we're heading more and more towards a Final Four that is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I don't think if you would have asked me earlier in the season, would Joey Logano have won 2 races before the COVID, shutdown of basically all sports in this country, and then not win again until Kansas in the playoffs? I think I would have told you you're nuts, specifically because of how well I thought that this particular pairing, out of all the changes they made at Penske, was going to do. So we'll talk about that. We'll break down the races at Kansas. We'll go over the Xfinity race, another great race by the Xfinity boys out there at Kansas. Another win for Chase Briscoe. Surprise, surprise. And we'll talk about the trucks as well. And then, you'll never know what else we might get into. So we might get into some random topics. Like I said, I know we're going to talk about the charters. So stay tuned. This is the Coochie's Corner podcast, hosted by Bobby Bailey. All right. So that was the intro. And I see we got someone watching us on Twitch. So that's always cool. So thank you guys for tuning in. Got a couple people. I mean, nothing crazy out of the ordinary that we don't normally have. And I know you guys have a lot of places you can hang out on a Friday night. You don't have to hang out with me. That's for damn sure. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I know if I did this on Facebook, we would get way more people. But as I think many of you know, we've had our fair share of issues with Facebook. So at least on the podcast side of things, I try not to do the podcast with Facebook. Because sometimes those two things don't mix for whatever reason, but it seems to work all right over here. So, so that is that. We'll drop that bad boy where it's supposed to be. And ESPN, I really don't care about Antonio Brown. That. All right, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the 2021 news first, kind of like we did a couple of weeks ago, where I did the 2021, like the silly season stuff, and then we went into the race recap. So that's what we'll do. We'll do 2021 news first, and then we'll get into the race recaps. Again, if you guys have any questions on either side, whether you're streaming us on Twitch or whether you're watching us on YouTube, drop them in the comments on the live chat. I will be able to see them because I have both streams up, and I'll be able to chime in and answer the questions in between these segments here. All right. All right. So I don't see anything. So we will move on to our 2021 news segment. All right, everybody, back here on the Coochie's Corner podcast. This is Bobby Bailey bringing you all the latest news on 2021 as it pertains to our crazy silly season. And it's been a nutty year for silly season. I mean, I think normally silly season the last couple of years has been pretty tame. I mean, we haven't really seen a lot of big movement. And, I think with, you throw coronavirus and the complications, financial complications, I really should say, on top of all of it, I think it's been a little bit crazier than normal. Unfortunately, we've seen a couple of race teams shut down this year. I think some of that does have to do with the financial implications of COVID. I don't think that's necessarily a direct reflection on NASCAR per se. And I think that's kind of been the beginning of some of the things we've been seeing this year. So, the obvious was Chase Briscoe got announced formally as the driver of the 14, which was something we've been hearing for several months now. This wasn't something that was a total surprise. I don't think anybody that's been around the series long enough to know otherwise that this was going to be some different outcome. I think Briscoe's been kind of the chosen person for this car for a while. And, I think Chase even admitted that he was told that he was going to drive this car, whether it was this upcoming season or 2022, he was going to be in the 14. And I think, you look at it and I know a couple people were like, well, why is Stewart-Haas doing it now? Wouldn't it make sense to keep, Bowyer one more year and then let Briscoe come in with the new car and kind of, let him get used to the new car when everybody's got to get used to this car. And I really do think that putting him in the car this year in 2021, despite the fact that 2022, we know the next gen car is going to be different, but of what we've seen of it, I mean, it doesn't appear like it's going to be a monumental difference. It's not going to be like, you're driving, I mean, to put it in a layman's terms, it's not like you're taking yourself and you're driving a Ford Focus and then all of a sudden you're going to go drive a Lamborghini. I mean, that's not what this is. This is not what it's going to be. It's, you're going to probably drive an updated, modified, nicer version of what you got, but it's not going to be like this big difference. These cars, they look like they're pretty similar. There's some things that are different with them. Yeah, there's going to be some learning curves, but I don't think these things are going to drive so much differently that these guys are going to be like, oh my God, I need half a year to figure this out. I think the really good drivers are going to figure this car out probably within the first 5 or 6 races. And I think even the rookie guys that are in Xfinity, these cars are going to still be pretty close. You're going to be in the neighborhood, so to speak, on these deals. And I think that these guys that are coming out of Xfinity will still be competitive in 2022, even if you came out this year coming up and are only going to have 1 year in the Gen 6, and then you're jumping right into the Cup car. I think that these things are still going to be similar enough that you're not going to have problems. The one thing I think that most of the casual fans are going to notice is the sound of it. Of what I've heard of some of the videos and stuff that I've seen, it definitely has a throatier tone to it. It's definitely going to, sound different. What you hear on TV is probably going to be a little bit different. Once we get to 2022, but it all depends on packages. It all depends on, is NASCAR sold that this 750 package is something they need to move forward with, on some of these other tracks. As we get more and more into these short tracks, we're going to see the next gen, quote unquote, of Auto Club Speedway. There's been some chatter about maybe, NASCAR is going to do something with Chicagoland. Possibly maybe making that a short track. There were some grumblings about that, when all that stuff was going on with the industrial park, and are they just selling the land off? What's going on out there? Nobody knows. But I think getting back to how this all pertains to Briscoe is that I think this upcoming season for him, despite it being the last year of the Gen 6 cars, is still going to be a benefit for him. I think it's still going to help him get ready for next year. And I think the other thing that benefits Chase, and it's kind of like one of those subtle things that you might not notice right now, but it's something you're going to notice down the road, is that Briscoe is a hell of a road racer. This is a kid that can compete with AJ Allmendinger at places like the Roval. This is a kid that can compete at some of these other places. He's got experience at Road America that some of these Cup guys won't have going there next year for the very first time. Briscoe has run on this track for the last couple of years, so I think that's a place that you're going to see him excel at. I think Briscoe's gonna do well at COTA. I mean, I know no one's been there as far as a Cup car is gone, but oh, by the way, Stewart-Haas was there with Tony Stewart, albeit in an exhibition and with a show car that they probably didn't use any data on it, but they've been there at least. And maybe Tony can relay some of the, well, this is a breaking point here, this is a breaking point there. So I think Briscoe, long story short, a good move for Stewart-Haas. Obviously, High Point, which is an IT company based out of Sparta, New Jersey, pretty close to where I'm at, up here in northern Jersey. It's going to sponsor his car. They're going to be the quote-unquote anchor sponsor. So that's big news for those guys. I think that was really the big piece of the puzzle that needed to be completed, was who was going to do this deal, who was going to be Chase's big sponsor. And it sounds like highpoint.com is going to be that. So good move for Briscoe. I think at the end of the day, it's a moot point whether or not Boarding to come back or the drive to come back internally. I don't know. But Chase said it did. He even said on the Dale Jr. download that it was a competition there for about a month between him and Bowyer, who was going to get the seat. And when I mean competition, I think it was a financial competition because, listen, I think if Briscoe didn't get High Point and these guys didn't come to an agreement, and when I mean Briscoe, I mean him, them sponsoring him. If that didn't come to fruition, basically, I don't know if Briscoe's in that car this year coming up. I think they would have stuck it out with Bowyer and went through another year with Randy Rush and Rush Travel Centers and some of that. What I do think that's going to do is, I don't know exactly how many races High Point's doing. I don't know if it's 10, is it 14, is it 12? Anchor partners these days, this isn't back like the 90s where you announce somebody as an anchor partner and they're on for 40, for 30 races. This isn't that anymore. So I think the anchor partner, they could be doing 12 races next year for all the hell we know. And they still got to need Randy Rush and Rush Truck Centers on that car for 10 races and Mobile One and some of the other partners they have. If High Point's doing more races, then I think they can move some of that sponsorship around, especially the Mobile One side of things. Maybe Randy Rush is taking a liking to Cole Custer, and they move him over. Move that sponsorship over to the 41, and they kind of cover some of the races that Gene's been sponsoring on Cole's car. So we'll see how that all pans out. But Briscoe's the right move there. I think it was the right time. I know a lot of Larson fans wanted to see Kyle Larson end up in that 14, but I still think Kyle's on pace to get the fourth seat at Hendrick, and that kind of does a nice little transition into Kyle Larson's getting reinstated as of January 1st. So kind of big news there. I mean, nothing that was really earth-shattering in the sense that you knew sooner or later Kyle Larson was going to get reinstated. NASCAR wasn't going to keep this guy on the sidelines forever. I think everybody deserves a second chance in life, and Larson's got that. But I think Larson understands that this is his last chance. If he does something stupid again, whatever it is, I don't think he's getting a third opportunity to come back. I think this is literally his second and final chance, and it should be 3 strikes you're out. That, and I think that's what they've made clear to Kyle here on his reinstatement. But I think it's kind of interesting. A lot of people are trying to say, I've been reading a lot of things that fans have been saying as far as Larson's not going to be allowed to drive all these dirt races and stuff. Rick's not going to allow him to. We'll see. I mean, I don't know how it's all going to pan out, but I really do believe at this point in time that Kyle Larson is a driver of whatever number Rick puts on that race car as a fourth entry for Hendrick. I really do believe it's Larson because at this point, Eric Jones also announced that he's going to Richard Petty Motorsports. So I think that was that was the only other driver. Really, if you ask me, that was the only other guy. What does this mean for Noah Gragson? What does this mean for his future as a Cup driver? I think putting Larson in the seat basically blocks Noah per se. I mean, the only thing that would come out of the woodworks, so to speak, and would be like, okay, well, they're just keeping the seat warm for Noah, would have been if they turned around and said, okay, Matt Kenseth is going to run 2021, and this is his final season in Cup, and he's going to retire after the year. That to me would have been something kind of like, okay, we're just keeping the seat warm for Noah. So I don't think Noah's going to go Cup racing with Hendrick. I just don't see it because I don't think Bowman's going to get kicked out of the 48. I definitely don't think Byron's getting kicked out unless something happens with the Liberty sponsorship. And I don't see Chase Elliott going anywhere. So where is Noah Gragson going next, in 2022? So I think you start looking at, okay, next offseason is going to be wild too, because, now not only do you have Matt DiBenedetto, who's going to be looking for a ride, you're going to have Noah Gragson, who's probably going to think he's Cup ready at this point by this time next year. You're going to have what happens with Brad Keselowski. Does Keselowski come back? Or do they put DiBenedetto in the 2 and move Keselowski to a fourth car? Do they basically make the Wood Brothers a fifth car? I mean, you don't know what the whole package is going to be over there with the Wood Brothers per se. But, I think we will find out in time. But I do think, just keep your eye out. I think 2021 offseason is going to be nutty. And I think that this is just the beginning of it. Now, the other news that is been was kind of secretive. I mean, nobody really had this. I knew one outfit put it out there that actually Go Fast was closing. And listen, I mean, I know we put up the story and I put Rumor Mill on purpose because of where I saw it. Listen, this is the same group that put up all the stories about Ryan Newman. And I kind of said it, there are reports, and that's why I said reports. You guys, I think that have followed the page long enough, and those of you that know me, if something is factual, I put news. I always put news, and then I state what the news is, and that's it. If it's a rumor, I'll put Rumor Mill. I try to keep it so that you guys know where I stand on it. If I think this is a rumor, I just put, hey, Rumor Mill, this is what's going on. So this was, Go Fast was supposedly shutting down, quote unquote. I mean, you kind of, and then you hear BJ McLeod and Matt Tiff has bought the charter. Okay. And then I said, wait a second. This is where sometimes intuition kind of kicks in. And those of us that have been around the sport long enough, those of us that have covered it long enough, that the 32 charter ain't really the 32's charter, okay? The 32's charter is the old 33 team, which was Circle Sport Racing, which is Joe Falk. Now, that name might ring a bell to some of you. Joe Falk used to have a deal with Richard Childress, and that's how he ended up with the 33 charter. Basically, the 33 was Bowyer's old ride, and then when Bowyer left it and went to Michael Waltrip Racing, Richard made a deal with Joe Falk, and they formed an alliance, and Joe started Circle Sport Racing, basically. And Circle Sport ran the 33 car most weekends, and there was a few weekends that they would run, Childress would run the 33 as an extra car. And that started, I think, 2013. And they ran it basically as an extra car I'm sorry, I backed that up. I think it was 2011. They ran that as an extra car. Or started in 2012. They ran that as an extra car. I think Austin Dillon ran a couple races in it as he was getting ready to go Cup in 13, Cup racing in 13. And then they basically eventually made a deal with Joe, and they started putting Ty Dillon in the car and this, that, and the other. Well, eventually it got to a point where they both decided to go their separate ways. Joe wanted to do his own thing. Richard kind of, was going to put Ty, I think, in the 95 at that point in time, because he made a deal with Bob Levine, of all people. And, him and Bob were working together, and they were putting Ty in the 95. And then they would run Michael McDowell in those races in the 59, which was their second car over at Levine Family Racing. But on the weekends that they ran the 59 and the 95 was crewed by an RCR team. So, the road guys, the hauler drivers, everything that was all Childress, basically, that ran the 95 that weekend. The 59 was the 95 guys' normal crew. It was Michael McDowell's normal crew chief. It was his normal pit crew. It was the normal cars they ran. Everything on that 59 was Bob Levine's team. That was the 95 just dressed up as the 59 for those like 4 or 5 races. And, Ty ran the 95 with the RCR stuff. So, then Joe kind of, I think, ran out of money, to make a long story short. And, he had Jeffrey Earnhardt in that car for a bit. Then they put a deal together with Curtis Key. And that name might sound familiar. Curtis Key had an Xfinity team. And they came up with Circle. I think it was Circle Sport TMG Group or something like that. Or it was, they put both of their deals together for a season, and it didn't work out. And they basically folded the program. And Joe Falk basically got out of owning a team outright. He made a deal with Archie St. Hilaire and the folks over at Go Fast Racing. And what it sounded like originally was they were going to run both cars. They were going to run the 32 and they were going to run the 33. But what later happened was the Wood brothers were looking for a charter because they ran Blaney, I think, in 17 as an open car. And it was a little hairy, too hairy for the liking of the Wood brothers. If I remember correctly, it was 16. I don't know. Their first full-time season, they ran open, and it was scary, or as I call it, hairy. It was a tough experience. They went and were looking for a charter, and they acquired a charter from Go Fast, and basically it's input. It's in a partnership where Archie St. Hilaire and the team over there at Go Fast own the charter in partnership with the Wood brothers. So the Wood brothers are allowed to use the charter, but it still belongs to Archie St. Hilaire. If he ever decides to, he can pull that charter out from the Wood brothers and take it back for himself. At least that's how the partnership is formed. And the 32 was going to use Joe Falk's charter from the 33 team from Circle Sport. So they were going to use that charter and operate the 32 that way. So they made a little money with the Wood brothers, and they had a partnership, but they weren't supplying cars or anything. It was basically a financial partnership that they had, that they got a little money from the Wood brothers. Realistically, the money was put up by Penske, but it was shuffled around through the Wood brothers, and Archie got some money out of the deal, which helped keep the doors open over there. Okay, so Joe apparently, I don't know exactly what happened per se, but I have, of what I'm gathering out of what has transpired, is that Mason, Archie's son, has decided that he's gonna go start his own business in a different industry that's not NASCAR, and Mason's gonna focus all of his time on it. And Archie's not a kid. Archie's been around in the sport for a long time and has owned teams for probably the last, I'd say, 10 to 12 years. And has been involved with the team for the last, probably, he's probably been involved with that team for 12 to 14 years because they started out in Xfinity as Go Green Racing, and then they became Go Fast when they made that deal with Frankie Stoddard, which is why it's called Go Fast and not Go Green. And then, and all that. So, at the end of the day, they decided they wanted to go part-time. They sold, of the way I understand it has to go, they had to sell their half of the charter back to Joe. And then Joe was then, sold that part back out to BJ McLeod and Matt Tiff, who are going to operate the charter with Joe. But of what I understand, Matt and BJ are going to operate the charter, and Joe's just going to be a financial part of it, kind of like he's had a financial part of Go Fast the last few years. So, I think it's another one of these crazy charter deals, gone awry or gone whatever you want to say. But I do believe that this is going to be a sad day for the fans at Go Fast because, listen, Archie took a team that was a part-time team. This was a part-time program. This was never a full-time Cup team as of 8 years ago. This was a part-time Cup program. Ran some Xfinity stuff with Jeffrey Earnhardt, Joey Gase at one point, and some other folks in that car. But they were never at the level that they got to. They got to a pretty decent level of success. I mean, they weren't, a top 20 team every week, per se. They were in that 20 to 25th range most weekends. They could compete for top 15s if they had the right car and the stuff fell there that way. But these guys, struggled financially the last, few years, I think. Corey definitely brought some more funding in, which helped them tremendously, helped them get a little bit closer to their deal with Stewart-Haas. They got some old cars off of them, and that made their program a little bit better. I think it really did help them improve, but with Corey deciding that he was going to leave at season's end, and the drivers that are out there right now that are looking for seats, Go Fast isn't one that you jump out at. Maybe if you're a Kaz Grala, who was a name we heard quite a bit of having negotiations with Go Fast. Kaz has got some money, but I don't think Kaz has got at least of what I understand, doesn't have the finances behind him to put a full Cup program together. So I think Kaz would be somebody that, if they're going to go run 5 or 6 races and they go run all the road course races with Kaz, that might work out for him. That might be something that they run really well with. But, sad news to hear that they're going to kind of go away, on the full-time side of things. And we'll see what happens. I think a lot of people are jumping the gun on the Matt Tiff and BJ McLeod. What that team's going to look like. I think some people are trying to make that out to be another Rick Ware car. We don't know. I mean, Matt used to be tied in with Front Row. I don't know if he still has connections there or not. But Front Row is a pretty halfway decent program. So if he can get some cars out of there or make a deal with Front Row to get some Fords out of there to field in the Cup Series, I think that they would be halfway decent cars. I don't think they're going to go blow the doors off of anything, but if Rick still has 4 cars next year, he'll beat at least 5 to 6 cars each week. And that's saying a lot for a team that's going to come walking into this sport basically, as late as you can get a brand new deal put together. Historically speaking, you could put a deal together as late as January, but putting a deal that you're going to run for a full season, this is kind of late in the game. I mean, we've seen teams announce stuff earlier on. You look at Justin Marks announced that he was going Cup racing months ago. I think, what Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin are doing are pretty much similar to what Justin Marks is doing, in the sense that they're going to get cars that are going to be built for them. But if you're going to look to build a new team and you're not going to just go out and acquire cars, this is kind of late in the game. So we'll see exactly what BJ and Matt have in mind for 2021, but we'll see, who the driver is going to be, what car number it's going to be, what the lineup's going to look like, and all that stuff. So we'll see how that all pans out. But, just to put a bow on it, I think that, we'll see what happens. I don't expect there to be a big driver in this car. Obviously, I think this is going to be on the lower end of the buy your ride market. Which is like that back 8 to 10 cars, which is really kind of like what it's been the last several years in NASCAR, is the guys that run between 40th and 32nd. The 30th are guys that basically just buy their rides. And that's the state of the sport. I mean, you go look at what it is in any of the 3 series right now. It's and some of them it's worse. Some of them, the back half of the field is buy your rides. And some of it's 8 or 10 cars. So we'll see how it all pans out. But just it's good news to hear that at least BJ is going to stay in the sport, in the Cup level. Matt Tifft is going to have a piece of this, which was something that none of us expected. And it's good to see Matt Tifft back in the sport, back involved in the racing community. Matt's a great kid. I've met him a couple times. He's always been very friendly, been very nice to me when I've met him in the garage area and stuff like that. So it's good to see good people get opportunities to stay involved in the sport. And I think that's at the end of the day, that's what you look for. That's what you hope for. And like I said, Matt Tiff's one of those good guys in the garage area that you could see, at your local racetrack whenever you're allowed back in the garage. I heard a grumble about that as well. So maybe we'll get into that on a future segment. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. And then the other side of the break, we will talk about the charter system and kind of give my opinion on it. And do we need to change it? I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's about time we do. So we'll talk about that all coming up here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. Almost said it wrong there. Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I'm Bobby Bailey. Can you make a car noise? No, we're not doing the car noise. Good God. All right, so when that processes, we will begin the next segment. Let's see what's going on the old Facey book. All right, everybody, back here on the Coochie's Corner podcast. This is Bobby Bailey. So right now, I just want to chat kind of about the charter system in the NASCAR Cup Series, and it's kind of been the focus of a lot of debate, I guess, the last few weeks, few months. With all the news that had been going on, whether it was the news about Go Fast going part time, Circle Sport owner Joe Falk transferring the ownership that used to belong to used to belong to Go Fast over to BJ McLeod and Matt Tifft. And then the news previously that Spire Motorsports had acquired a third charter from a team that we don't even know about. There's been a lot of rumors about JTG Doherty's 37 car being the charter they acquired. Is this system broken? And I think the short answer to most people would be, yeah, it is broken. And I think what NASCAR needs to do, and we've talked about this before, is NASCAR needs to provide transparency with this deal and let us know exactly who owns what charter. And is it a partnership? Do they own it outright? Like, what's the deal with the charters? I know if you go back in history long enough, you'll go back and you'll say, well, why did we get to this point? We used to have a pretty open system in owner points. So what you used to do is you used to have owners that would, run a car number. So, if you own the 3 or the 2 or the 12 or whatever, whatever points you accumulated that your car ran, whether it was with one driver in the car or 25 drivers, that's the amount of points you had at the end of the season. And NASCAR, I think, got a little cute trying to make sponsors happy. So, these companies pay millions and millions and millions of dollars to put their names on race cars. And, a company like Dow Chemical or, Dex Imaging or PPG or some of these big sponsors that are on this wall of diecast that's behind me if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitch. These companies pay millions of dollars to put their names on these race cars. Like Smithfield sponsors, the 43 car or sponsor the 43 car with Eric Almirola. And they wanted a guarantee that, hey, if we're going to sponsor this race car, we want to have our car guaranteed in the race because we don't really want to be sponsoring this car and spending all this money if there's no guarantee that our car is going to be seen on TV. So what NASCAR started doing was they started locking certain cars into the show. So they started locking in the top 36, then it became the top 30, and NASCAR came up with the charter system because the team owners were saying, well, this is great that you're locking us into these races and it's guaranteeing us, sponsor dollars. But what do we do if we just want out? Let's say we want to retire. I mean, we could sell the assets. Yeah, we can sell that stuff, but we don't have a franchise. This isn't like football or baseball or hockey where, you have a franchise and you have to buy your way into those sports. So what NASCAR did was they came up with a charter system. So all these teams had to spend money, in order to basically get a charter because, you had to be in the top 36 owner points and this, that, and the other. And you had to be in the series for a given amount of time. And basically the charters went to 36 owners at the end of I think it was the 2011 season. I think that was. And, we've had the charter system, I think it was 2011 or 2012, 2013, something like that. It's only been around 5, 6, 7 years. So I think 7 years at max. Anyhow, what we have now is a very convoluted system. It's probably the worst system NASCAR has had. The old owner point system wasn't terrible, because when you think about it, the worst that ever happened were teams used to, a guy used to sell owner points to another guy, one team would sell to another team. And basically, you would trade spots into points. So if you were starting a new team, you'd go to, maybe a mid-mark team, just throwing a name out there, you would go to Front Row Motorsports and say, hey, listen, we'll throw you, $6 million, maybe not $6 million. We'll throw you $350,000. We want the owner points. Okay, no problem. And some of those teams would take that because $350,000, although to you and me sounds like a hell of a lot of money, $250,000 to a team like Front Row. Hey, I could go build a brand new car with that. That's a brand new car. I didn't have to pay to build. They paid for it. Sure, we'll go out there and we'll go plug away and do what we got to do. But the team owners wanted something, and this was something that came out of the RTA. Rob Kaufman and the guys that started the Race Team Alliance wanted to have some kind of financial system that they could sell this charter. It was transferable to new owners, and they would acquire, they would be able to acquire it and spend money, and it would create a system where at least if you owned a charter, you would get some kind of financial reward for being in the sport, which there is in every other sport. I mean, if the Maras and the Tishes wanted to sell the Giants, okay, they could turn around, they could sell it tomorrow, and they could probably get $2, $3, $4 billion for the football team. Up until a few years ago, up until the last 5 or 6 years, if Bob Jenkins wanted to get out of Front Row Motorsports, yeah, he could turn around and sell the building. He could sell his cars. He could sell the equipment and all that. But he had to piecemeal sell all that stuff or sell it to somebody that just wanted to buy it. But there was nothing else. These guys can now turn around and just sell the charter, keep all their assets, and start a new race team if they really wanted to. Or they could sell the whole kit and caboodle and do that. Bob Levine, basically what he just did was he sold everything he had physically besides the race cars, because the race cars were coming out of Gibbs. So he sold everything that he physically owned to Spire Motorsports, and that's what they bought. Now, Spire has acquired a third charter, supposedly a charter that was owned by Todd Braun somehow, okay? And that's the third charter they acquired, and that's going over to Justin Marks' race team Justin Marks is leasing the 77, which I think is the last year that they're going to have the credit of Furniture Row's championship. But I believe if they acquired the 37 charter, of what I understand, that 37 charter was the second car at Furniture Row in 2017 with Eric Jones. So it would be kind of an interesting dynamic over there. It would technically reunite the 78 and the 77, but not really. So we'll see how that all pans out. But I do think the system's broken. I think NASCAR's got to limit a little bit further how many charters can be available. I think 30 is a great number. Because listen, I don't think we're going to get to 40 cars anytime soon. Being fielded each week. We've had some races where we've had 40 cars, but I don't think we've had 40 cars consistently this year. And this year, out of all the years, because of all the craziness that's gone on with COVID, and the fact that we're going to get now one more year out of this car, I really thought that this year we were going to start seeing more 40 car fields, especially when NASCAR kind of was like, with everything with qualifying, said, we're going to open it up. We're going to let 40 cars into the lower series, 40 Xfinity cars, 40 trucks. I really thought the trucks were going to kind of go crazy with the 40 trucks, but we didn't really see that much down there. And in the Cup Series, where you have 4 open spots every single week, you don't really see it, and what open cars exist right now? You have the 96, okay? You have the 7, the 78, and then, you might have 1 or 2 others out there that I'm blanking on, but you really don't have a ton of open teams, that show up every single week. Oh, I'm sorry. The 62 would be the other one that has shown up from time to time. And then obviously the 16 with Kaulig and stuff like that. So next year, Kaulig is going to run partial Cup, a driver. Okay. It's probably going to be JJ. Well, I almost called him JJ Haley. It's probably going to be Justin Haley. Because I do think that once they announced that he was coming back to have the Xfinity car, and he's not going Cup racing per se, I do think that that's Pretty much the icing on the cake for me that Justin Haley's going to run the partial schedule with Kaulig and Cup, and then he'll go full-time Cup with Kaulig in 2022 when the new car comes out. But I do think that this charter system's broken, man. I mean, it's been a mess. It's a hot mess to try to figure out who owns what. NASCAR's got to do something. I mean, 30 would be a lot better because in most races, if you get 6 open cars, I think that would be competitive. Or here's an idea: let's start taking some charters away from some of these lower end cars. Does the 15 qualify for a charter? I mean, I know that NASCAR said that they have the right to take the last, I forget, it's the last 4 charters away, something silly like that. I think it is. But it's a rolling 3-year average. And, you look at that 77 charter, next year, they're going to be a low finishing charter. But I'm guessing because they're leasing it out, they're going to be making a little bit more money back on that deal because Justin Marks is going to be paying them for it. And, it's just crazy. It's just so convoluted. I mean, it really is. Who owns what charters? Rick Ware's using the 44 charter for the 51. It's just an utter mess, and it has been for the last several years. So hopefully, NASCAR can come up with a new business model again for this system and come up with something that's going to work. So that we can get some new owners in here. But, you don't get a guy like a Rick Ware or somebody that just stockpiles charters and then tries to divvy them all out to other people. And then when he gets all these charters, circumvents the system by pawning cars off on people that are employed by him. See, this is the thing that a lot of people, and I know we've gone through this a lot, but this is the thing people don't understand is that Rick has got 4 charters right now, right? He's got the 51, he's got the 52, which is now the 27. He's got the 15, he's got the 53, okay? So he's got the 4 charters. But then the 7 is owned by Tommy Baldwin, right? Tommy Baldwin was an employee of Premium Motorsports. So now that Rick owns Premium, Tommy Baldwin's technically is a Rick Ware employee. So, and he uses Rick's shop for his modified program. So there's that. BJ McLeod has driven for Rick in the past. Actually drove for him this year. And BJ's got a Cup car, which basically is Rick's car. And, you look at all this and you see some of the things that they've done, the driver swaps. J.J. Yale, he drove for Spire. He drove for Tommy Baldwin. He's driven for, Rick Ware. He's driven for, for Tommy even. J.J. Yale, he's been around this year to all the different cars. Reed Sorensen has been in all the different cars. I don't think he's driven for BJ, though. I think he drove for Tommy. He drove for Rick, and I think he drove for Spire. But these guys are getting bounced around between the cars. And, Rick, tried playing it off earlier in the season that, Tommy's team and Rick's and BJ's team are separate programs. But I mean, realistically, they all have, basically the same sponsors. That Fort Worth, printing has been on all their cars. They even stopped really covering up the fact that they own Premium. And I've said that for months that Premium deal was them. And then they went out and said, oh, no, it's not us. And then they changed their, and then they announced the deal officially and all that stuff. And I think it was because they were mad that people knew about it. I wasn't the only one that knew. There's other people that knew about this deal, but I was one of the ones that knew about it. And they were also mad when I told everybody, like I did on I forget it was Facebook or on the podcast, about BJ and Tommy's team basically being quasi Rick Ware teams. They were mad about that because they basically went out and they got a hold of Pockers and they said that this is separate deals, this, that, and the other. These people don't know what they're talking about. Well, the reason how I found out was I found out from people that knew about this on a pretty good level. Okay. And I'm not going to tell you exactly who they are because I don't want to out them, but there are people that know Rick's dealings pretty well. Okay. And that's where I would leave it. But at the end of the day, I listen, I don't have a problem with Rick. I've never had a problem with Rick. The problem I have is that, here's a guy that's got 4 charters, right? He owns really 2 of them outright. 2 of them he has through partnerships. He has the 53 as a partnership with Front Row. So Front Row tomorrow could turn around, take that charter from Rick and use it. I don't think they're going to, but they could. Richard Petty Motorsports could start a second car tomorrow and pull that charter out from Rick Ware, and that charter could be the second car at Richard Petty Motorsports. I don't think either one of those things are going to happen this offseason, but there are 2 charters that are just chilling at Rick's shop right now that basically could get pulled out at the end of the season. I don't think either one of them is going anywhere. I think Rick's going to have 4 charter cars again next year. The only one I would say would be something to watch is if Rick sells a charter off. Like if he turned around and sold the 27 off because that's one of the ones he owns, or sells off the 15. Those would be the 2 that if he got rid of those 2 charters tomorrow, those would be the 2 that he would get rid of because those are the 2 he has in his possession that he owns outright. Okay. I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't. And I just, I hope that if he does sell it off, they go to people that are going to do something with them, that are actually going to be competitive cars for people to go out and have a legit shot at winning races with. Because I think what Rick's doing is it's not illegal. Okay. I just really, really want to hammer that home. It's not illegal what he's doing. He's circumventing some of the rules. There's no doubt about it. But Rick going out there and having an inventory of cars, listen, he acquired the premium race cars. Okay. So he's got an inventory of race cars, and he has cars that he got, part of them through his deal with Petty. Okay. Some of them are the old Ford cars that were built by Roush that he has. And some of the other cars he has are cars he got from JTG Doherty. And then he has cars, I believe, that he acquired from Front Row Motorsports with his deal with the 53. So Rick's got cars, bursting at the seams. He's got equipment all over the place. And I think that was part of the reasons why, he's been able to supply Spire with some cars, why he was able to supply, why he's got his own cars, why he's got cars that they use for Tommy Baldwin's team, why they got cars for BJ McLeod. But this charter system, like I said, getting back to it, it's totally flawed, and NASCAR's got to do something. They got to do something to prevent these kinds of things from happening. They got to close the loopholes up a little bit. I know Rick has done some nice things for people in the sense that he's gotten some people opportunities that they never would have gotten otherwise. And what I mean that is, you look at James Davison is in the series. I don't know if James would have gotten into the series any other way. Rick was just kind of like taking a chance on the kid, an IndyCar driver, that wanted to come over and try NASCAR, something that we've seen happen. But usually you got to have the right funding. And usually these guys go to bigger teams. He's got Joey Gase driving for him. And we've talked about Joey before. I mean, Joey's Joey, say what you want about Joey. Joey's got some money behind him, and he's always had money behind him. Whether it was at Go Fast, whether it was at, not Go Fast, at Go Green, whether it was at Jimmy Means' program or wherever he's been, he's always had money behind him. But yeah, it's just crazy. This charter system's got to change, and hopefully NASCAR comes up with something better. But like I said, I think if you come up with 30 charters, you take the bottom 2 away every single season religiously and award them to the best open teams. That would allow teams to come in and use the open cars as an opportunity to come out and try. See if you can do it. See if you can make it. but I think they got to do something. This system's broken, and NASCAR fans want something different. All right. So what we're gonna do on the other side of this little segment here. I did not anticipate going that long on the charter. We will talk about Kansas. So I know you guys want to listen to Kansas. So on the other side of this break, we are going to talk Kansas. This is a Crew Chiefs Corner podcast hosted by Bobby Bailey. All right, getting through it. Oh gosh, been an hour. Oh, kind of crazy. Almost getting that 9 o'clock hour. Oh boy, almost getting to 9. All right, this is gonna take a little while to process. At least a couple minutes. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying the live stream. And don't forget, you can catch the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. This is the 32nd episode. There are 31 other episodes that are available. The most recent one was what I call the Day at the Races. You could catch that right now wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And also, the live record is up on YouTube as well. Another thing I like to talk about normally during the middle of these things is any diecast that I got recently. So I got a few. Got 3 actually. So the first one we're going to show is the Chase Elliott. This is the Hooters truck. This is the one that a lot of people have been out searching for. So this is the Hooters number 24 that Chase drove at Atlanta for GMS Racing. This is not the one he won with. This is not the iRacing truck, but this is the Hooters truck. Then another car that I got in is this bad boy right here. This is the Alex Bowman Auto Club race winner, autographed Elite. DIN 85 of 88 that were made. So on the Elite models, Alex only signed 88 of these bad boys. So this is the 85th one. Kind of a cool car. Got some tire debris damage on there. So that's kind of neat. What they do with this, if you've never actually seen this before on a diecast, what they do is they take a full tire and they basically glue this stuff on, this extra like material on. So it's a normal tire that they just glue the stuff on. And what you see here is what they did was they created a little flat. They can't really make the tires flat. It's either the tires on the rim or off. So what they did was they're kind of able to shave a little bit of it off. And that's what they were able to do on these to make it look like it was flat. So if you put it at the right spot, it looks like the tire is flat on the ground, even though the rest of it looks fully inflated. So kind of neat. And they've been able to do a little bit better with the fenders. They actually do the damage on the fenders now too. If you look at this car, this is the Bubba Wallace first start car. You can see they can actually do the rubbing off of the lettering and stuff on it on these as well. So kind of neat what they're able to do. Let me see if we're good here. We are. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do one more segment, and it is going to be the Kansas recap. Might be one of the fastest recaps we ever do. But it is what it is. All right, here we go. All right, everybody. Bobby Bailey back here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, coming to you now with our Kansas race recap. So, been kind of a action-packed episode. So, hopefully, you guys have listened all the way through, and you are hearing now the Kansas race recap. So, a crazy race weekend overall. All three series had some great races. I thought the truck race was exciting. You had that awesome racing between Zane Smith and Brett Moffitt. Zane actually ended up kind of costing himself the win there on a super, super aggressive move, but a big win for Brett Moffitt, a guy that hasn't won a race this year. It's hard to believe that a former Truck Series champ, Brett Moffitt, has not won a single race this year, but picked up the win at Kansas. He will advance on to the championship 4 at Phoenix, so a big win for Brett Moffitt and the guys over at GMS Racing on that 23 truck. So good job for those guys. And then the Xfinity race, I mean, what can you say about Chase Briscoe? I mean, the kid is phenomenal. Another win. He doesn't have to worry about, Texas or Martinsville. He can go right to the Final Four at Phoenix as well. So Briscoe is in. Tough early wreck for Austin Cindric. You feel for him. But now he's barely above that cutoff line. He's got to go into these next two races with a win. A win would be big for those guys to lock themselves in, obviously. But you expect the boys on that 22 Penske camp to be able to go out there and compete and get themselves into that into that Final Four. But I tell you, another solid race by Ryan Sieg and the 39 boys over there at RSS Racing. Great run for those guys. Can't say it enough. They have just continued to impress, given the fact that these guys shouldn't even be competing at the level they've been. Another solid run by Ryan Sieg and the RSS Racing team, the CMR Roofing sponsored entry. Another solid run by those guys, and a little bit in the Xfinity, because we didn't really talk about this in the other segment. In the first segment, but Justin Haley's going to be back in the 11 next year full time for Kaulig. Kind of duped a lot of us into all that, but big news for him, and he's going to be back with Kaulig in 2021 in the Xfinity series, and we'll see him also in the Cup car, probably on a limited basis as well. So then you get to the Cup race, and this is the one everybody wants to talk about. Okay. Joey Logano picks up his first win in several months, his first win at Kansas in a few years, I think. So a big win for Joey. He is able to lock himself into the championship 4 at Phoenix, and really just a lot of blocking, just a ton of blocking. Really, Harvick couldn't do anything with him. And, I know it probably frustrated the hell out of Kevin Harvick, but a big win for Joey Logano. One that will definitely catapult him into the Final Four and really put the playoff picture in jeopardy for some guys that are going to have to dig out of big holes now, especially Kurt Busch with that blown motor, and some other guys that had some big issues at Kansas as well. But just an overall great race at the end. A lot of gamesmanship out of Logano, something that, Joey's known for, which is blocking. Joey's a pretty good blocker, as Harvick would admit to as well. But a big win. He needed that. Paul Wolfe and that 22 bunch. You knew out of all the Penske changes they made this offseason that the Paul Wolfe-Logano combination should have been the most successful out of all of them. They have been, not as impressive as you would have thought. Just the 3 wins now on the season, which equals the amount that Brad has. Brad has 4, I think. But nonetheless, Penske has got their program. They got to turn their program around. You know that Brad's going to be good at Phoenix. So if Brad can win, whether it's Martinsville or whether it's Texas, if Brad can win one of these races and make it a 50% chance that Team Penske is going to have the championship residing there at their shop, you would have to feel pretty good about that. But you look at some other guys that could go in there and mess this whole thing up. You still have Hamlin, you still have Harvick, who are definitely championship favorites, and that Harvick has been good at Phoenix, not recently, but Harvick's been good at Phoenix in his career. And Hamlin's been pretty good there too. So you would look at those two guys and really say that they're going to be very much in the mix. But if Brad wins, what does that mean for the other two spots? Does it mean that then we just see Hamlin and Harvick, and then it's Logano, Keselowski, and Hamlin and Harvick? I mean, I don't know, but I think one of the things that was interesting that we were, that I was thinking about is you look at the bigger organizations this year, and a lot of them, it's been one guy that's been winning. You look at Hendrick, it's Chase Elliott, right? And it's been Chase Elliott for the last few years, but it's Chase Elliott that's winning. You look at Penske, Brad and Joey have both won, but Joey didn't win until now. Brad was doing a lot of the winning. You look at Stewart-Haas Racing. Harvick's been doing all the winning. You haven't seen anything out of Bowyer. Okay, Custer has a win. Okay, Almirola's done okay, but it's really Harvick that's doing all the winning. You look at Gibbs, Truex has one win, Eric Jones has 0, Kyle Busch has 0. It's Hamlin that's doing all the winning. So, there's two organizations that have been dominant, but even the smaller teams that have, or not smaller, but even the teams that have had other wins, it's not like all their drivers are winning. Penske has actually won with all three of his drivers. Blaney won Talladega, okay? Keselowski won, what was it, Bristol, Martinsville, and I know he won Richmond, but Brad's got 3 or 4 wins this year. Logano won at Phoenix in the spring. He won at Vegas, and now he won at Kansas. So you look at some of these guys, some of these teams, and Penske's won with all 3 drivers. Can't really say that about Stewart-Haas. You can't really say that about Gibbs. So Penske obviously is done a pretty good job with that, but they still don't even have the amount of wins that Gibbs has with just Hamlin and Truex with 1 win. So just a nutty year, and we'll see what Texas brings. I think because they're both 1.5-mile tracks, you would say that probably Harvick would be somebody to watch out for. I think Harvick's won Texas the last 3-4 years in a row. So I would say Harvick's probably going to be your best bet to win there. And then I really think that it's going to come down to Martinsville of who's going to be that person, who's going to join this Final Four. And so if you pencil Harvick in, you got Harvick, Logano, and then you got Martinsville. Does Brad Keselowski win Martinsville? Brad's won there before. Do you get a Brad won New Hampshire? That's where he won. That was the other race. Do you get a win at a Denny Hamlin at Martinsville? A hometown boy. Does Truex win there? Because he won there last year, and he won there in the spring, So, I mean, do you get those guys that are kind of like the outside of the Final Four, that we all thought of? Does Chase Elliott win at Martinsville? Does Chase Elliott win this weekend at Texas? So there's a lot of possibilities, but I think we're just going to have to wait and see. I would say Harvick's the favorite this weekend to move on and kind of see what's going to happen when we get to the Final Four, but it's getting down to it. You gotta start, looking at who's going to do what. As far as the Xfinity side of things go, I think this is Austin Cindric's weekend. I think he's really got to go out there and win this race and kind of put all the pressure on the JRM boys, whether it's Allgaier or Gragson or any of the other guys that are really in this round of 8. They got to put the pressure on those guys. So I think if Cindric goes out and wins at Texas, that would complete 2 out of the 4 people that I think are really going to be the title contenders there. And then the Truck Series, I mean, Zane Smith has been knocking on the door. I think Zane Smith is another one that you would, have to put down that, has a legit shot at winning this championship. But there's other people that are knocking as well. So we'll see. But, I think in the trucks, I would say Zane Smith is going to be the guy I go with getting that win in Texas. So as far as Cup goes, I think it's Harvick. Xfinity, I definitely think it's Austin Cindric's weekend. And as far as the trucks go, I think Zane Smith's going to win. So I think that's a pretty solid 3 drivers that are going to win in each series, or at least a driver in each series that's going to win. I think those are three solid names for this weekend. So hopefully you guys enjoy the race tomorrow, the Xfinity race, and then the trucks Sunday morning, and then the Cup race later on Sunday. So we'll catch you guys next week with another episode of the Crew Cheese Corner podcast. Hope you guys have a nice, safe week. I know Halloween's coming up. That's going to be next Saturday. So hopefully you guys are ready for Halloween. And then, right around the corner is the holiday season. As scary as that sounds, it is just around the corner. So have a great week. Enjoy the races at Texas this weekend. And we'll catch you next week on another edition of the Crew Cheese Corner podcast, hosted by Bobby Bailey. All right, guys, that's it. So we will catch you guys later. No Facebook, obviously, this week. I haven't really done a ton of Facebook Lives, but go check out the podcast. It will be up in probably the next 10 minutes or so. So check out the Crew Cheese Corner podcast. Episode 32 will be up within the next 10 minutes, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Catch you next week.